It's Spoilerin time, folks. If you're a fan of Cordkillers, that's the show where we tell you how to watch what you want, when you want, where you want, and give you some tips on things to watch. This is the show where we talk about the things we're watching, which means we have to get spoilery because you can't talk about the things you're watching without talking about what you saw, which by definition spoils the plot because you watched it and you have to talk about it. I'm Tom Merritt. Brian, am I making any sense here?
No, you're making perfect sense, and I'm glad that we're, and part of the reason we're doing that at the beginning of every spoiler in time is we get a number of people who are like, I checked out your show. I thought it was about cutting the cord, and instead you're just talking about movies. And it's like, yes, that's the other show. It's two left hemisphere, right hemisphere.
Yeah, exactly. It's two sides of the same brain, and we have a third hemisphere joining us. Peter Wells, thanks for hanging around.
No worries, boys. How you doing?
Dude, so excited to have you here. And we have a first of its kind moral conundrum that we're going to talk about here in a bit, in that we can't even speculate about the marketing for an upcoming movie without spoiling the property, which is why it's in here. What else are we going to talk about, Tom?
Yeah, we're going to finish with Justified, episode 6, season 2. What Brian's referring to is we are going to spoil the Dark Tower book series in relation to the marketing for the Dark Tower movie. And I will not say any more than that until we get to that point. So if you haven't read the books and you don't want to be spoiled, don't listen to that section of Spoiler in Time.
And we've got time codes in the show notes if you don't want to listen to anything in particular.
And for the record, we're not kidding around. We're actually going to spoil the end of an epic 7-book at the shortest path. Yeah, 7 to 30 books, depending on how you want to read this series. We're going to spoil.
Obviously, we're very excited about that, but we're also super excited to talk about episode 5 of season 6 of Game of Thrones. But let's start with the summer movie draft.
Yeah.
I used to be more into the summer movie draft, Brian.
But now?
Not as excited about it now that I'm in second place.
Is that because Team Night Attack surpassed you to take the #1 slot in the movie draft with Captain America Civil War now bringing in a grand total of $347 million for our $24 investment?
Yeah, just $20 more, $20 million more than the Jungle Book, which I spent $13 on.
Okay. Doesn't brag much. That's fine.
It's my sour grapes for
which, by the way, I was excited. I found myself, man, I'm in such a delusional mode right now. I'm trying to believe that Ghostbusters can pull it out. I'm reading articles titled, "Why? Don't worry, Paul Feig's movies always have terrible trailers. Look at this. This is a terrible trailer for Spy, which made all the money. Here's a terrible trailer for I forget what the other Melissa McCarthy one was, but I'm." With that second trailer, it's not as bad as the first trailer. Cautiously
optimistic. Makes more sense. Yeah, it doesn't have the obvious glaring "why did you say that" elements. It makes this movie look like a true to the spirit of the first Ghostbusters movie, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, and you actually got to see a few beats of what I assume are very funny set pieces, like the awkward leaving a theater with a ghost on your shoulders and all that stuff. Yeah, it could be funny. Please. Fingers crossed.
Meanwhile, I'm waiting for mine next. Well, actually, I don't know when Free State of Jones got rescheduled to, but Now You See Me 2 coming out June 2nd. Or June 10th.
June 10th in theaters everywhere.
Honestly, I've been hearing people talk about it outside of talking about the movie draft, which makes me very excited because that's not one I'm counting on to rake up a bunch of bucks here.
Yeah, full disclosure, I have a friend of mine who got to be one of the Magic consultants on that. So they're apparently working very hard to bring more of, again, I didn't see the first one, so I can't really speak to it, but it certainly sounds like there's a lot of actually very, very talented magicians who are involved in the consulting of all this. So I'm excited to see magic represented well and maybe find something to inspire a next generation of magicians.
Now, no spoiler in time next week. Oh, sorry, Peter, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, this movie draft thing, so is this based on international box office or domestic?
No, domestic only. We're keeping it, we're racists is what it is.
Okay.
We think America's the best. Actually. And we don't care about the rest of the world.
I built a wall
I thought
around
watching the
picks.
Now You See Me 2 trailer was just hilarious. There's a moment there where they say, "We just woke up and we're in Shanghai. How did that happen?" Well, international box office. That's how that happened. So I would be more confident if you were taking the international box office there, Tom. But unfortunately, you've only got domestic to play with.
And I only spent $9 on it. So I really, it needs to make like $10 million and I'll be happy.
Dude, I think you're going to run away with this one, Tom. You made some really smart plays on here.
Well, and here's the thing. Okay, we're not Memorial Holiday, so no spoiler in time next week. But the next 2 weeks worth of movies bring everybody into the fold. We've got 2 more from Chainsaw Suit, which we haven't seen anything from them since Batman versus Superman. So Alice Through the Looking Glass and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Alice Through the Looking Glass this week. TMNTJ next week. TMNTJ, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? No. TMNT. That's all. There's no J.
TJ is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of Jones.
And then also coming out this week, X-Men Apocalypse, which is Team Cordkillers' first movie before they hit their Warcraft, Independence Day, Legend of Tarzan, The Purge, mighty lineup, all within a next month.
I have total faith in Team Cordkillers, mainly because they share the name of our fine program.
Yeah. And Christy's going to be back on the show. We're going to try to get Milango back on the show as well. I think it's going to be very telling for Chainsaw Suit's future because all they have after this is Central Intelligence. So we'll have a very good idea where they're going to end up after these next 2 weeks. And then I think, Secret Life of Pets, Ghostbusters, Star Trek Beyond, and Suicide Squad are what's going to bring it down to whatever place we're fighting for.
Okay, can we just dispense with the niceties and say this is a 2-man race? It's you and me. It's Team Night Attack and Team DTNS. That's really what this show does.
I like Mikey. Come on.
He's great. Mikey's great. He's going to be on Night Attack tomorrow night. But also
write him off. We'll write him off next week. Okay,
fine.
Is that fine?
Sure.
All right. Before we move off of this, Peter, any other questions about the draft or a movie that you're super excited about coming out?
Well, I did not know this existed until a couple of minutes ago. So can I, I assume I've missed the summer here, but is there a new league coming up that I can join?
As a matter of, we do our league, we do a summer league and we do a winter league, and you've of course figured out that it's basically fantasy sports involving box office drafts. But if you go to boxofficedraft.com, is that the site that T2T2 put together? You can,
yes.
Yeah, there we go. You can put together your own league. I believe it might be too late to start it on this one, but you can actually decide, auction everything off. 6 players, each one gets $100. Everybody auctions off, and you see how well your slate does. It's a total blast. I recommend everybody do it.
Fantastic. I was playing like a week by week movie box office one, but that was too much effort. This sounds much more doable.
Yeah, the fun part is the draft, where we put down money in an auction style against each other on the movies, and then you just run with it. It's a blast. All right, let's start by talking about Game of Thrones, Episode 5, Season 6. Brian, you had some strong opinions about this episode, and they are not of like mind with many other people on the internet.
Yeah, no, apparently I'm wrong. 2 things I said, and it was interesting that they came, they were misinterpreted by a lot of people. First of all, I noticed during this episode that Game of Thrones is able to elicit a lot of reactions from me: shock, surprise, terror, excitement, joy. But I don't think it's ever made me cry. And keep in mind, I'm a total softball on crying. I'll cry at anything. But there have been shocking moments that characters have died, but there's a way to direct those moments that are meant to elicit, they are meant to remind you of the fragility of the human condition and the fact that we're all just mayflies living for a scant few hours in the time scale of the universe. But directorially, Game of Thrones doesn't try to do that. And I think the closest it got to trying was having us watch Hodor die, I was just like, well, that's unfortunate for him. And I don't think it's because I'm callous and cold. I think it's because I think it's like watching a pawn get captured. It's the Game of Thrones, man. And I don't know.
You live or you hold the door.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Time out. Can we talk about that? Yeah, you remember a little M. Night Shyamalan movie called Signs, where the big twist at the end was that Mel Gibson's wife was not having a hallucination as she died, but instead was giving this super helpful advice that in 6 years, when aliens happen to arrive and you find yourself staring at an alien and there happens to be a weapon up on the wall, here's some helpful advice. Use the weapon to attack the alien. So I'm going to say it in a weird way, swing away. What was his name? Was it Merritt? I forget the guy's name. Swing away, and then it's like, oh my gosh, there's an alien there attacking a kid.
Way to spoil the movie.
and yes, no, we're spoiling everything. Oh my God, there's a weapon and there's an alien. What should I do? Oh wait, my dying wife told me to tell another guy that he should swing away. Super helpful, thanks. That's what this was. Like,
it was super helpful.
No, it was not super helpful because anyone with half a brain in their skull would have
beat the alien.
Look, same thing with Hodor. It's like, yes, it's cute. Here's what I suspect. I suspect that in the books, this will be one sentence that is going to be a cool moment that you realize, oh, wow, this moment when he gets to the end is connected to a moment. This is why he became, lost the ability to speak or whatever. How neat. But instead, they played it like a big 3-minute reveal at the end, like, what a twist. And I didn't care for it. How about that?
Well,
Peter,
also, I think the way it led up to that moment also kind of dampened it somewhat. That there was the woman running in the corridor just beforehand, and she stops and she has that dramatic moment where she, picks up the grenade, and it's like, just throw the goddamn grenade, don't hold on to it. But she just sits there powerfully holding onto it and waiting for the hordes to swarm amongst her, and dies killing them. And it was like,
and then the very next scene,
I've known her for like 3 minutes. I don't really care. And so, like, the fact that you've watched one person die where you don't really have much investment in means that when the next person dies that you have kind of cared about for a number of years, it just doesn't feel anywhere near as powerful.
Well, and plus also the very next scene, mere seconds later, they show how little that did to stop the tide of all these incoming bad guys. And on top of that, am I the only one who is a little bit disappointed that all of a sudden that the White Walkers is just a biological weapon that got out of their control? All of a sudden we're World War Z over here. It's just like, oh, well, we didn't like humans, so we developed a biological weapon. But it's the movie. Have you seen the movie Outbreak? That's what the White Walkers are. I didn't care for it.
I get that, yeah.
So what did you think, Tom?
I hesitate to say because I don't feel strongly enough to debate it or defend it. But I thought that this episode was very slow. I really liked Sansa's bit with Littlefinger. Otherwise, I felt like we were just kind of treading water a lot. And I was okay with that because they've had some amazingly paced, high quality episodes. And I had been not spoiled, but someone had seen the leaked version of this that got out on BitTorrent because HBO Nordic posted it too early and said, oh my God. And so I was waiting for the, oh my God. And yet when it got to the end, I thought that the Hodor hold the door magic triangle was pretty well executed. I liked the editing. I thought it was good. I thought it made sense that, Bran warging into Hodor therefore caused a connection back to his presence in past time. And basically Bran killed Hodor by short circuiting his brain. And I thought that was a nifty way to explain why he would only say Hodor in this kind of, I'm a sucker for a time travel story way.
Yes. Although one more note on that, the best tweet I saw of the entire night. And yes, tweeting is a sport when there's a major event like this. But I retweeted it. If you'll scroll. Oh, there we go. Dave Itzkoff is a guy who I don't know, who in all caps tweeted, George R.R. Martin, finish the books now. George books now. George Snow. Jon Snow.
That's pretty good. I also don't think this is how it will be in the books.
I agree.
I think that Hodor does mean hold the door. And I have two pieces of evidence for that. One is David Benioff in an interview said that when George R.R. Martin told us the origin for Hodor, we thought it was really powerful. Although he doesn't go far enough to say, and that was hold the door. The other is there was an author in an elevator with George R.R. Martin who told this story before last night's episode, by the way, who said, I was in an elevator and I said, something about elevator operator being, and that must have been where Hodor came from. And George R. R. Martin laughed and said, you don't know how close you are. I think hold the door will be why Hodor says hold the door. I don't think it will be because of the warg triangle.
I agree with that 100%, because we've already seen them differ in terms of, like, is Daenerys fireproof and so on. Two comments. Two things I loved. One thing I loved was watching the Mummer's Farce, watching Arya watch that play and watch her enjoy it and see how things changed when somebody portraying her dad as an idiot. Like, that was a bigger sucker punch to me than the whole Hodor thing. Like, what must that be like? Separately, I found myself really conflicted, and this goes back to the whole detached nature of all the characters. Yes, what happened to Sansa is terrible. She's gone through a lot. She's fundamentally a damaged individual. But as she's describing all these things, I find myself saying, yeah, but you're kind of more interesting now. Kind of like you better now than you were. I felt kind of disgusted with myself for thinking that. I don't know. What did you guys think of either of those?
I did definitely think the Arya, is that how you say it?
Arya.
Yeah, Arya Stark watching the players was just one of the best things. Well, definitely the best thing about this episode, for me at least. And one of the better things of this season. It was just... the Game of Thrones has been a bit shaky this season, doing anything but shocking. When they've tried to be, funny or have light moments, or they haven't really hit the mark so far this season. I think they've done it better in the past, but yeah, I just thought that was an absolutely beautiful little sequence. And yeah, I think Maisie Williams actually played it very, very well as well. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought the weird thing I thought of the strangest moment for me was the whole Theon Greyjoy moment where they have their little shout by the waterside, and it's all dramatic, and then it just changes in a second, and I guess we can spoil, can't we? Suddenly the uncle shows up, and suddenly like this group of idiots immediately start following him. And then while they're having their little ceremony, they just all sneak off and steal the boats. Like, everything about that sequence just seemed really strange and really clunky for me.
Yeah, it feels like, I guess I read that as a shorthand for what we're seeing take place over 3 minutes is, really 2 or 3 weeks of maneuvering and positioning and getting out and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that is from the books, and it's largely what happens in the books as well. So that one didn't stick out to me, but it also wasn't dramatic. So I'm kind of with you partway down that road, Peter, where it was like, okay, we kind of knew Euron was going to steal the throne. Otherwise, he wouldn't have pushed Dad off the bridge, or brother, I guess, in his case. And I kind of knew that she was going to run away and take a bunch of boats with her. Okay. Like, it was all things that needed to happen. Kind of like Daenerys discovering the grayscale on Jorah. Kind of needed to happen. I don't know that it needed to happen, but Tyrion and Varys talking to the Red Witch was like, okay, you've now set up that they've talked to them, so that's going to pay. There's a lot of pieces being put in place to pay off later in this. That's why the Sansa, like finally standing up even more. Like, we've seen her character strengthening. I was cheering for her. I loved that scene. I was like, yes, kick some ass, Sansa. And also her lying to Jon, because she knows that needs to be done to be able to take back Winterfell. She's starting to play the game now for real. And as far as the Mummers show go, I both hated and loved that scene. Like, I absolutely agree with you guys that it was a bigger gut punch to Arya than anything that has happened. And I loved that aspect of it, of all of her trials. Seeing her dad portrayed as an idiot was definitely the worst. But I also hated the Mummery show. It was just like, ugh, I didn't want to watch it.
Yeah, that's one of the things is, certainly they wanted to convey that it was distasteful and crude and crass and poorly executed. But in order to convey that means we, the viewers, had to sit through a crass, poorly executed farce. But I loved it. I loved every moment of that. Also, what's up with the gratuitous cut to a man's genitals talking about the warts?
My wife and so every time we watch Game of Thrones, the last couple of seasons, we've had a couple of friends come over, and yeah, my wife and her best friend cheered when that penis was on TV because they have both complained about the gratuitous breasts that pop up all the time on Game of Thrones and how there's never been full frontal male nudity. Now, they've been waiting for Jon Snow this whole time, so they were a bit disappointed that it came in a bit player, shall we say. But
plus also that they were diseased genitals to boot. It wasn't even like flattering.
But anyway, yeah, it was a slight moment of feminism there in the show, I thought.
All right. Any other thoughts on any parts of Game of Thrones before we move on?
I really dug who's the guy who hangs out with Tyrion Lannister?
Varys. Yeah, no, seeing him being visibly shaken by the insights of the other Red Woman, I thought was really interesting.
That was the other great moment for me.
I had a really interesting. I don't know if this is too much. I had an interesting thought with the Bran thing, because I haven't read the book, so I didn't. I kind of could only just see that maybe time travel stuff might happen, but remembering Varys talk about his childhood and the accident, I guess that kind of.
Well, no. He talked about it in a previous episode. He talked about how a sorcerer of some sort chopped off his genitals and threw him in a fire to get a vision or something.
Okay. Well, it just made me think that now all of history is in play for a paraplegic character. Like this world that has like a lot of lore and backstory before the show even starts
can now be explored.
That's fair game, basically, which was one of the overwhelming things from this week's episode for me.
And will be probably the spin-off series, Brantastic Voyages.
I would watch the hell out of Brantastic Voyages. Are you kidding me?
Brantastic Voyage.
That actor is just so boring. I just can't stand.
No, dude, he's more interesting now than he's been at any point in the entire series. All of a sudden, his story is my favorite because he can go anywhere and experience anything and do anything. He went from the most unable character to the most able character, just in a flip of a switch. Thank you, Three-Eyed Raven. Rest in peace.
Now, from spoiling a TV show that has run out in front of its book to spoiling a book because of the marketing for its forthcoming movie that hasn't come out yet. On May 19th, Stephen King posted an image of what looks like maybe it could be. And if you don't want to be spoiled on anything with the Dark Tower book, stop right now.
And by the way, just to put how seriously I take this in perspective, like I used all my clout to get Tom to take the journey. The book itself is 7 books long. All of Stephen King's books are secretly about this. Just if you want the highlights, you're looking at a 14-book journey, give or take, to get all the side quests, to get everything that ties together for this. All of it culminates in one moment. Swear to God, if you want the experience with the books, skip now because it's spoiling time. It basically culminates in this one moment that the lead character, Roland of Gilead.
Well, hold on.
Okay,
we'll get there.
Go ahead.
On May 19th, Stephen King posted an image of what looks like it could be the Horn of Eld. And the words, "last time around," are on the image. And then the text of the tweet is, "The Dark Tower is close now. The Crimson King awaits. Soon, Roland will raise the Horn of Eld and blow." What does this mean, Brian?
Okay, here's what it might mean. And understand all of this comes from somebody who has spent over a decade with this story and loves it very, very deeply. But the big twist, as a matter of fact, and it's very self-referential. Stephen King at some point in the story writes himself into the narrative. He shows up as a character, kind of indicating that it's like, hey man, I'm just the loudspeaker. This stuff comes through me. I don't dictate the story. The story's bigger than me. And he portrays himself not flatteringly. But the big, and at the end of the 7th book, Child Roland to the Dark Tower came, per the Robert Browning poem, and was found wanting and was turned back. And in fact, there's this moment that Stephen King says, hey man, this part that we're at right now, wouldn't that be a good place to end this story? Wouldn't that be a great place? How about you not read the next chapter? Why don't you just close the book right now? You know, this is how the book ends. But if you continue, you're not going to like it. And of course, what happens is Roland of Gilead walks in, is found wanting, and is sent back to the beginning of this epic journey. And what's great in the books is the mere act of reading them, and I'm sure the act of writing them for Stephen King has been an epic and tiring journey. And the idea of going back to the beginning, the man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed, is so disheartening and exhausting. However, in that moment, it is indicated that maybe something's different this time because he lost the Horn of Eld in the previous iteration. Maybe this iteration where he has the Horn of Eld, maybe it'll be different. And all of this is to say, my fanboy theory that I want so bad to believe is true, is that what they're saying is, what if they began this marketing campaign with the biggest spoiler of all, with the ending of the books, and said, hey, yeah, so in the books, he's sent back to the beginning because he's been doing this thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And but guess what? The movie is the story of his last time around. So things are going to be different than the books. And this is the final ending of his journey. So now, all of a sudden, you have cut the nuts off of every complaint from guys like me who deeply love the books. Well, that's different than the books. This is different than the books. All of a sudden, it's like, yeah, dumbasses, it's different than the books because this is his last time around. All of a sudden, like, that would be amazing. Like, I just got goosebumps, literal goosebumps thinking about this right now.
Now, it's genius. It's genius to do that for exactly the reason you said, which is the movie is going to be different. They always are. They have to be. It's a different medium. And so it's it's within the gestalt of the Dark Tower universe to take the medium and fit it into the story so that it is explained by the story. Well, the reason the movie's different is this is a different time through the cycle, right?
Exactly.
It's brilliant. The only thing I wonder, Brian, is you keep saying this, and I think it's out of hope, that this is the last time, but it doesn't need to be.
Oh, what do you mean? Like,
it could just be another time through.
Oh,
he could still be found wanting and sent back.
Now that would be a real asshole thing to do, to start the marketing campaign with the phrase "last time around" and yet not make it.
I mean,
the
last time around to me means previously. The last time around,
I don't know. I feel like they're pretty clearly. Okay. As somebody who does not have an attachment here, Peter, from what you've heard, what's your takeaway? What do you think all this is headed towards?
I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but no, this actually does sound really fascinating. I love the idea of just I guess being able to be free with a different medium. If they do have that out, if this universe does provide them with a way to kind of create a whole new version of events for the movie, that sounds fantastic.
Tom, if you're gambling, little gentleman's bet, we'll remember this 6 years from now when the final movie comes out. We can point to this moment. If you're going to gamble, you think I'm crazy crackpot in here? Or you think I'm onto something?
As far as it being the last, like he finally is not found wanting. We get a resolution at the end.
Yeah.
I want to believe.
Put up the poster.
I honestly want you to be right. But there's a part of me that's like, yeah, but then they could do a video game and then they could, I don't know if Stephen King would do that though. I honestly, my gut tells me you're right, but for the purposes of my own all internal doubts and the more interesting stake side bet that we should have going here, I will take that. I will take that bet and say, no, he will still be found wanting.
Yeah, no, I think that they're definitely going to end it, and that is the end. But the mere fact that there could be dramatic tension where it's like all of a sudden producers are saying like, hey man, we didn't say he got his way. We didn't say it worked out. We just said this is the last time around.
Probably the bigger risk is that they don't actually get to make all the movies. So
the first one flops, and that is the last time around.
Yeah, totally. Well, all right. Let's move along to episode 6, season 2 of Justified. Tell me what happened to this one. We're still in that weird part with Justified where they are procedural, right? Like there is still a story of the week, and this one is even weirder because it opens with Boyd being questioned. So you think, oh, we're really getting into the arc. But then we don't see him again for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, well, plus also in the previously on, they make a big deal about like, now I got a crazy plan, Ava, but I gotta know right now, are you in or are you out? And apparently the crazy plan was to pretty much tell the truth and say, yeah, no, I was pretty much kidnapped and forced in this position. Ask Ava. Ava's like, yeah. And they're like, okay,
that's what happened.
Free to go.
Yeah. What a crazy plan. Tell the truth, huh? But then we see Raylan's ex-wife trick him, telling him it's files, putting a bunch of money in a lockbox, which is like, well, wait a minute. Why didn't she just say it was money? She's putting it in the lockbox. And then we find out, oh, she's sneaking a bill out. And I started to think, well, is that Ava's money? Is she helping Ava? Because they had built up that whole thing. And it turned out like, no, it wasn't Ava's money, but it was money that was going to get her in trouble.
Yeah, well, and maybe it's the fact that I've already watched The Shield, but the moment she takes that one bill, I was like, oh, that's going to be trouble if she tries to spend it. I bet it's going to pop up on a blah, 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 blah. And then I had to wait the laborious 15 minutes for us to get the point where she's like, oh, I think I'm in trouble. It's fine. It was fine. It was fine for what it was. Loved seeing, what's his name from The Walking Dead show up.
Herschel.
Herschel, yeah.
No, I did. That's not his actual name, but he played Herschel on The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
No, he was great. In fact, Eileen walked in when I was watching it. I was like, why is Herschel on this?
And what's weird is I'm sure he shot that before The Walking Dead, yet he looks and plays much older on this than he did on The Walking Dead.
And honestly, I was with you. Like the bank robbery stuff was not tedious, but it was very much expected. I kind of knew what was going to happen as it went along, and I knew that Winona was going to get caught up in it, and that Raylan would want revenge. But the beauty of this episode, what saved this episode 100% for me, was the chase scene between Herschel on the tarmac with Raylan's boss.
Yeah, dude. It was
glorious.
Especially the fact that like there's 15 years difference between the two of them, and yet both of them are just like, old waddling.
Just don't do this. And he's like, oh, my knees hurt, but I'm going to catch you because I am younger than you and you're on oxygen. And he passes. I was like, oh, man. It just made me feel my age. And I'm not even all that old. But I was like, man, that's coming. That feeling's coming soon. It was just a gorgeous slice of humanity there.
Yeah, no, it was fine for what it was. It was a very functional episode. It pushed everything forward. Not a big shocker at all. It was a fine procedural.
I wonder if there isn't a little bit more, maybe something I'm missing from Winona's money scandal there that's going to end up becoming a problem.
To be honest, that was kind of the problem with it, was that it ended with him handing 3 bills over. It's like, it's got to be one of these. I would have preferred to see them, like, if you're going to get that close to closing the story, it seems like you should at least burn the bills so there's no chance of that biting her in the butt.
Yeah, exactly. I guess unless somebody went looking for that bill, but then there's going to be 2 extra bills that shouldn't have been in there.
Yeah,
so
it's like
there's an accounting problem no matter how you look at it.
Well, I mean, but from a storytelling perspective, there's an accounting problem because either you've unnecessarily complicated the plot or you've unnecessarily left a thread open that didn't need to be left open. So I don't understand.
For the chase scene alone, I will say I love this episode, but definitely not the strongest of the ones we've seen so far. And we're mid-season, so maybe that's why. We're halfway through the 13 of season 2.
Good point.
All right, boys. I'm 6 seasons behind now. Is it worth me trying to catch up? First of all, how long are the seasons? Are we talking kind of British 12 episode or
we're talking 12, 13. Actually, it looks like they're all 13.
Cool.
Yeah, there's we're only halfway in the 2nd season. So if you want to get ready for that mid-season hot pursuit of 2 old guys.
I adore the dialogue. And I know you mentioned you're a fan of Timothy Oliphant, Timmy, because I know him so well.
Old Timmy O.
From Deadwood, I would assume. Did you watch him in Deadwood?
Actually, not Deadwood. I've seen him around. He pops up on a lot of art house films. So he's always he's always the most fascinating person in generally pretty bad movies.
Well, one of the things I liked about Deadwood was the dialogue, and it's one of the things I love about Justified is just that patter that they have is just fun. Like every character says something in the way I want them to say it every time, and to me, it's just enjoyable for the atmosphere, and there's good stories in here too, even if this week wasn't the strongest.
Okay, cool. I'll try. There are just so many TV shows to catch up on these days.
Man, don't get me wrong. I felt the same way. I wanted to even go a different genre because we just did a police procedural with a story arc in The Shield, and now we're doing another law enforcement procedural with a story arc in Justified. But I can't say I'm not enjoying it.
All right,
right on.
Well, that is it for Spoilerin Time. Peter Wells, remind folks where they can find what you do.
Just head on over to twitter.com/Peter Wells. I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. Say hi. I will say hi back. I'm a nice person. And we'll chat there.
Excellent. And we will spoil you in 2 weeks' time, ladies and gentlemen.
Time Women Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.